You're here now, in your bed, ready to rest. The day is done. All those tasks, all those thoughts, they can wait until tomorrow. Take a breath with me, nice and slow. Feel your pillow beneath your head, your blanket keeping you warm. The gentle hum of heating, maybe, or the quiet of your room. Now, let your mind drift back through time. Your heated room begins to fade. The electric lights dim away. Your soft mattress transforms. It's England now. The year 1300. Winter is coming. You're lying on a straw mattress. Rough woolen blankets pulled tight. The November wind whistles through cracks in the walls. Can you see your breath? Little clouds in the moonlight streaming through the window. No glass here. Just wooden shutters that don't quite close. Outside, frost is forming on the thatched roof, painting everything silver. The ground will be hard as stone tomorrow morning, but you're not alone in this cold. All around England, in cottages just like this one, families are preparing, surviving, finding warmth in the darkest months. Let me tell you their story. How did they make it through? How did they stay warm when winter showed no mercy? Close your eyes and listen. Let me show you how they found comfort in the coldest of nights. The first signs came in October. Old Martha knew it before anyone else. She'd lived through 60 winters, maybe more. She'd stopped counting after her husband died. She would stand in her doorway each morning, watching the sky, reading its moods like other folk read faces. Look there, she'd tell the children who gathered round her cottage, her crooked finger pointing at the geese flying overhead. You see how they fly? Not lazy and scattered like summer, but tight together, urgent. The geese flew in perfect formation, their calls echoing across the empty fields, honking their warnings to anyone who would listen. They knew what was coming. They always knew. When I was your age, Martha continued, her voice soft as wool. My own grandmother taught me, the geese are never wrong. They feel winter in their bones, just like I do now. Young Tom would listen, wide-eyed, pressing closer to the old woman's skirts. The other children too, Mary and little John and Agnes, they all wanted to hear. How many days, Martha? Tom would ask. How many days until the frost? Martha would close her eyes, feeling the wind on her weathered face, tasting the air. 2 weeks, she'd say. Maybe less. Feel how the wind has changed. It's not playing anymore. It means business now. Each morning now, Thomas the farmer would wake before dawn. He'd lie still for a moment, listening to his family breathing. Joan beside him, the children nestled close like puppies, all of them sharing warmth under their one good blanket. Then he'd slip out carefully, trying not to wake them, though Joan always stirred. Testing the ground again? She'd whisper. Aye, he'd reply, Got to know. He'd step outside barefoot, an old habit from his father. The best way to know the earth was skin to soil. His feet would meet the ground, and he'd stand still, feeling. Yesterday the earth had been soft, giving. Today it pushed back, firm, almost hard. Not frozen yet, but getting ready to be. He'd curl his toes, feeling the cold creep up through his soles. Tomorrow it would be harder still. Next week. Time's running out, he'd mutter, padding back inside. Joan, wake the children. Gentle now. We've got work. In the vegetable garden, the whole family worked as the sun climbed. Little Mary had her own section, the easy roots near the edge. Her small hands were perfect for the delicate work, finding the turnips hiding under their leaves. Got one, she'd cry, holding up each muddy prize. Good girl, her mother would say, never too busy to praise. Put it gentle in the basket, don't bruise it now. The turnips came up with soft popping sounds, trailing little roots like whiskers. Mary would shake off the dirt, just like Papa taught her, then nestle them carefully with the others. Her brother William worked the carrots, longer roots, harder pulling. Sometimes he had to dig around them with his fingers, loosening the earth's grip. Why do they hold on so tight? He asked his father. Same reason we do, Thomas replied, grunting as he pulled up a particularly stubborn parsnip. They don't want to leave home. Joan worked steadily on the cabbages, each one precious, each one a meal in the dark months ahead. She cut them carefully at the base, leaving the roots in the ground. The earth needs something back, she explained to Agnes, who was learning, always learning. We take and take, but we must give too. They worked in rhythm, breathing visible now in the cooling air. Pull, shake, place in basket. Pull, shake, place. Sometimes Thomas would straighten his back, looking at the sky, calculating. How many more days? How many more chances to harvest? The beans were already gone, dried and stored. The peas too, but these root vegetables, they could stand a bit of cold. The question was how much. Papa, William said, my fingers are numb. Mine too, son, Thomas replied. But better numb fingers now than empty bellies later. Come, let's warm them a moment. They'd all stop, rubbing their hands together, breathing on them, the children giggling at the steam they made. Then back to work. By midday, the baskets were heavy, full of Earth's gifts. Old Martha passed by, nodding approval. Good harvest, she said. You'll need every bit. Inside the cottage, different preparations were underway. The walls of their home were made of wattle and daub, woven sticks covered with mud and straw. Good enough in summer, but winter always found the weak spots. Young William stood on his father's shoulders. He was the lightest, the most nimble, perfect for this job. Can you see the crack? His father asked, swaying slightly under the boy's weight. Yes, Papa. Light's coming through. I can see the sky. Well then, Let's hide the sky, shall we? William took handful after handful of straw. His mother passed it up from below. Good dry straw, saved from the summer harvest. He pushed it deep into every crack, his small fingers working like he was darning a giant sock. Pack, push, pack more. Tighter, William, his father encouraged. Think like the wind. Where would you try to get in? William thought, then found another gap, another whistle of air, more straw, more packing. Below him, Agnes worked with their precious cloth. They only had 3 good pieces. One was her mother's dowry cloth, still beautiful despite the years, too fine for daily use, but perfect for this. She hung it over the largest window, the one that faced north, where the worst winds came from. Sorry, mother's cloth, she whispered, but we need you. Layer by layer, the windows were covered, each cloth overlapping the next, creating barriers, mazes for the wind to get lost in. The cottage grew darker with each hanging, but also warmer. Already Agnes could feel the difference. It's like putting the cottage to bed, she told her mother. Tucking it in? Joan smiled. That's exactly what it is. The most unusual preparation happened as the sun began to set. Thomas opened the door to the animal shed. The beasts looked at him. They knew something was changing. Animals always knew. The cow, sweet Rosie they called her, mooed softly, her great brown eyes patient and trusting. Come on, girl, Thomas said, leading her out. Time for your winter home. The lean-to attached to the cottage had been cleaned, fresh straw laid down. It shared a wall with their main room. Rosie's heat would seep through, keeping them warmer. Welcome, neighbor, Joan said as Rosie was led in. We'll be smelling you all winter, but we'll be thanking you too. The sheep came next. 6 of them. They wouldn't come inside, but their shelter was moved right against the cottage wall. Their woolly bodies pressed together would create heat. Another gift. The chickens were easiest. They'd roost in the cottage itself, in the corner by the door. Their mess was worth their warmth, and their eggs if they kept laying. We'll all be one big family, Thomas told the children. Humans and beasts together, the way God intended. In the kitchen corner, the salting began. The autumn slaughter had been 3 days ago. The old pig who'd lived a good life. Now he would keep them alive through winter. Joan and Agnes worked side by side. Salt was precious, more valuable than silver in these parts. But spoiled meat was worthless. Watch how I do it, Joan instructed, her hands working the coarse salt deep into the pork. Every surface, every crevice, the salt must reach everywhere. The meat was cut in strips, each piece small enough to cure properly, large enough to make a meal. Agnes copied her mother, her young hands learning the ancient rhythm. Salt, rub, turn. Salt, rub, turn. My mother taught me, Joan said quietly. And her mother taught her. Back and back. This knowledge is old as winter itself. The salted meat would hang from the rafters. The smoke from their fire would cure it further. By December, It would be hard as leather, but it would last. It would keep them alive. Outside, as darkness gathered, Thomas and William dug the storage pits. The ground was still soft enough. Just tomorrow might be too late. Not too deep, Thomas explained. Just below where the frost reaches, the earth stays warmer down there, like a blanket. They dug 3 pits, each one lined with stones to keep out the damp, then straw, then the vegetables, then more straw, then earth. Mark it well in your mind, Thomas told his son. Come January, when snow covers everything, you must remember where we buried our treasure. William nodded solemnly. This was important. This was survival. The last task of the day was perhaps the most hopeful. By firelight, Joan and Agnes sorted herbs, bundles spread across the table, each one tied with thread, each one a future remedy. This is time, Joan said, crushing a sprig, letting Agnes smell. For when the winter cough comes, boiled in water, eases the chest. And this? Agnes held up another bundle. Sage for when the throat burns, and that one, fever few, for the headaches that come with cold. They tied each bundle carefully, the cottage filled with green scents. Summer's last gift, medicine for the dark days ahead. Martha appeared at their door, drawn by the herb smell. Good, she nodded. You're learning, but you'll need more fever few. The headaches will be bad this winter. I feel it. She shared her own wisdom. Which herbs for children's fever, which for old bones that ached, which for the sadness that came with too many dark days. The women worked together, 3 generations of knowledge, passing down what couldn't be written, only remembered. As night fell complete, the cottage was transformed, warmer, tighter, ready. The vegetables slept in their earth beds. The meat hung in its salt armor. The herbs dangled from every beam. The animals settled close, adding their warmth, their breathing, their life. The family gathered by the fire, tired but satisfied. Will it be enough? Little Mary asked, pressing against her mother. It will, Joan said firmly, because it has to be. Outside, the first frost was painting the world silver, but inside, they were ready as anyone could be. The winter could come now. They would meet it prepared. The heart of the cottage never stopped beating, even in the deepest part of night, when all souls slept. The hearth lived on, glowing embers breathing in and out, like a sleeping dragon. Joan always woke first, always. It was still dark, would be dark for hours yet, but her body knew. The fire needed her. She'd slip from the bed carefully, Thomas mumbling in his sleep. The children curled together like kittens. Her bare feet knew every board, every squeak to avoid. The cold hit her immediately, sharp as needles. Winter had truly come now. She could see her breath, little ghosts in the darkness. But there, in the corner, the hearth glowed. Still alive? She whispered. Good, good. She knelt before it, like before an altar, which, in a way, it was. The embers were buried under ash, hidden but warm. She took the poker, gently, gently. Too rough and they'd die, too gentle and they'd smother. Come on now, she coaxed. Time to wake. She stirred carefully, and there, a spark. Then another. Orange jewels in the gray ash. Now the ritual began. First, the smallest twigs, dry as bones, saved specially for this moment. She laid them across the embers. Not too many, just enough. Wait, patience. A tiny flame licked up, caught, spread. Thank you, she breathed. More twigs now, building slowly, then small sticks, each one placed with purpose, creating spaces for air, channels for the fire to follow. The cottage began to lighten, shadows dancing on the walls, and with light came warmth, precious warmth. Thomas stirred. You've got it going then. Aye, Joan replied, still focused on her task. She never died, just slept. This was their greatest fear, greater than hunger, greater than sickness. That one morning the fire would be truly dead, cold as stone. Starting fire from nothing, that was hard. Flint and steel if you had them, which they did. But it took time, patience, dry tinder. And some mornings your fingers were too numb, too clumsy. Better to never let it die. The children woke to the smell of smoke, not the sharp, stinging smoke of green wood, but the sweet smoke of well-dried oak. Their father had chosen well this morning. Can we get up? Little Mary asked, shivering under the blanket. Wait, their mother said. Let the room warm first. No sense freezing yourselves. But William was already moving, drawn to the fire like a moth. He sat as close as his mother would allow, holding his hands out. Why does it feel so good? He asked, watching the flames dance. Because we're made for it, Thomas said, joining his son. Man and fire, we've been friends since the world began. Agnes brought the baby, little Tom, barely a year old. She held him where he could see the flames. His eyes went wide, reflecting the orange glow. He loves it, Agnes said. Look how he watches. We all do, Joan replied. It's in our blood, deep as breathing. The morning ritual continued. Thomas selected the day's wood carefully. They had 3 types, each with its purpose. See this? He showed William. Oak burns long and steady for the main heat. He placed 2 oak logs on the growing fire. They'd burn for hours, steady and true. And this? William held up a different piece. Ash burns hot, good for cooking. Your mother will want that later. In the corner, wrapped in cloth to keep dry, were the precious pine knots. Those are for light, Thomas explained. When we need to see for close work, pine burns bright. but fast. We save those. William nodded. Learning, always learning. One day, this would be his job, his knowledge to pass on. But not everyone had wood. Old Martha hobbled in as the sun rose. What passed for sunrise in winter's grip? "Morning, Joan," she wheezed. "Might I warm myself a moment?" "Of course," Joan said, making space. "How's your own fire?" Martha's face fell. "Down to Pete now, my son. He couldn't get to the forest before the snow. The Lord's men turned him back. Pete, the poor man's fuel. Thomas had some too, stacked outside, for emergencies. When the wood ran low." "It's not so bad," Martha said, trying to be cheerful. "My mother burned nothing but peat, kept us alive." But they all knew the truth. Peat burned cooler, smokier. It stung the eyes worse, made the children cough. "Take some oak," Joan said quietly. "Just a few pieces. I couldn't." "You can and you will. We have enough." It was a lie. They never had enough. But what good was warmth if your neighbor froze? As the morning progressed, the hearth showed its many faces. It was the cook. Joan hung the iron pot from the hook, adjusting the chain to get the height just right. Too high and the pottage wouldn't cook. Too low and it would burn. "Agnes, mind the pot," she instructed. "Stir every time you count to 30. Agnes took her place, wooden spoon in hand. This was important work. The pottage was their main meal, barley and vegetables and sometimes a bit of salt pork. It would simmer all day, getting thicker, richer. The hearth was also the dryer. William's boots from yesterday were soaked through. He'd placed them carefully on the hearth stones. Not too close. Leather could crack, but close enough to steam. "They'll be ready by tomorrow," his father assured him, dry as summer. Wet clothes hung from pegs nearby, steaming gently. The cottage always smelled of drying wool in winter, damp and smoke and life. The smoke was the worst part. No chimney, just a hole in the roof. Most smoke went up, but not all. Never all. By midday, eyes were watering. "It's not so bad today," Joan said, wiping her eyes. "Winds from the south, draws better." But some days, when the wind was wrong, the smoke filled the cottage like fog. They'd cough and wheeze, eyes streaming. "In my grandfather's time," Thomas said, "they didn't even have the roof hole. Smoke just found its way out through the thatch." "How did they breathe?" William asked. "Badly," Thomas replied. "That's why he died at 40. Lungs full of soot." The children looked at the blackened beams above. Years of smoke had painted them darker than night. "We're lucky," Joan reminded them. "Some folk have no fire at all." As afternoon came, the hearth became the gathering place. Too cold to work outside, too dark for fine work without wasting candles. So they sat close, each with their task. Joan spun wool, the spindle dancing in her fingers, the rhythm hypnotic, soothing. Agnes worked on mending, squinting in the firelight, her needle catching the glow as it moved. Thomas carved, making a new spoon from ash wood. The shavings fell into the fire, little sparks of light. William watched, learning, while little Mary played with her corn dog, making it dance in the firelight shadows. Even the animals drew close. The chickens roosted nearby, heads tucked under wings. The cat appeared from nowhere, claiming the warmest spot. "Tell us about the fire spirits, Papa," Mary asked. Thomas smiled. This was his favorite story. "Well now, long ago, before Christ came to England, people believed spirits lived in the fire." The children leaned closer. Even Joan, who'd heard this story 100 times, listened with half smile. "Good spirits?" William asked. "Oh yes, they kept the house safe, kept evil out, but you had to treat them right." "How?" Mary's eyes were wide. "Never let the fire die completely. That was first rule. And sometimes, on special nights, you'd throw a bit of bread in the flames, a gift for the spirits. Did they eat it? Who can say? But the families that honored the fire spirits, their houses stayed warm, their children stayed healthy." Joan threw him a look. "Careful with the old stories. The priest wouldn't like it." But Thomas continued, softer now. "Of course. Now we know better. It's God who keeps us safe. But still, there's something holy about a hearth fire, don't you think?" They all stared into the flames, each seeing something different. Evening brought new challenges. The wood was burning low. Thomas made calculations. 2 more logs tonight. No more? We must make it last. This was the constant worry. Too generous with the fire, and they'd run out before spring. Too stingy, and they'd freeze tonight. "I'll bank it well," Joan promised. "It'll last till morning." Banking the fire was an art. Cover the embers just right with ash. They'd sleep through the night, ready to wake when stirred. Too much ash, and they'd smother. Too little, and they'd burn out. Joan had learned from her mother, who learned from hers. The knowledge of women passed down like precious jewels. As darkness fell complete, the hearth's importance grew. It was their only light now. Candles were for emergencies, for births and deaths, not for every day. They pulled their stools closer, faces glowing in the orange light. "In summer," Agnes said dreamily, "we complain about the heat. And in winter, we'd sell our souls for it," Thomas finished. Outside, they could hear the wind picking up, but here, in the circle of firelight, they were safe. The baby dozed in Joan's arms, lulled by the crackling. The cat purred, content. Even old Martha, still with them, seemed peaceful, her ancient face smoothed by the gentle light. "You know what I love most?" she said suddenly. They waited. "The way fire makes us equal. Rich lord in his castle, poor peasant in his cottage. We all need the same thing. We all huddle close, all servants to the flame." It was true. Even the Lord with his great hall, his massive fireplace, still had to tend it, still had to feed it, still feared its death. The night deepened. One by one the children grew drowsy. The fire had that power too, to bring sleep. "Bed now," Joan said softly. "Tomorrow comes early." They protested weakly, but truth was, away from the fire, the cottage was bitter cold. Bed was the only warm place left. "I'll bank it now," Joan said. "Thomas, the last logs?" He placed them carefully. These would burn slow through the night, just enough to keep the embers alive, just enough to greet them in the morning. Joan took the ash shovel, covering the glowing coals partially. The flames died down, but the heat remained. "Sleep well," she whispered to the fire. "We need you tomorrow." In the darkness, with everyone abed, the hearth continued its ancient work. The embers pulsed, red, orange, red again, like a heartbeat, like breathing. Smoke rose through the roof hole, carrying sparks to the stars. The cottage creaked and settled, warmed by the dying fire. Sometimes in the night, Thomas would wake. Listen. Was it still alive? Was the heart still beating? A faint glow from the corner. Yes. Still there. He'd close his eyes again. Grateful. Another night survived. Another morning promised. The hearth never stopped. Never rested. It was mother and father, protector and provider. It was life itself, and tomorrow. Joan would wake in the darkness, kneel before the embers, and begin again. The eternal rhythm, old as humanity itself. Feed the fire, tend the fire, thank the fire. Without it, they were nothing. With it, they could survive anything, even the longest winter, even the coldest night, as long as the hearth's heart kept beating. Before dawn, in the bitter darkness, came the worst moment of every day, getting dressed. Thomas lay still under the covers, dreading it. Beside him, Joan was already stirring, always braver than him when it came to the cold. "Must we?" he muttered. "Unless you plan to stay abed till spring," she whispered back. The children were still asleep, pressed together like puppies, smart little ones, sharing every bit of warmth. Thomas took a deep breath, then threw back the covers. The cold hit like a slap, like diving into an icy river. His whole body clenched against it. "God's teeth," he gasped. "Hush," Joan warned. "You'll wake the little ones." But she was gasping too, her breath visible in the darkness, little puffs of life in the frozen air. The first layer was the most important, the linen undershirt, worn soft from years of use. Thomas pulled it on quickly. The fabric was ice cold against his skin. He shivered violently. "Why is it always so cold?" he complained. "The same complaint every morning?" "Because we're not lords," Joan replied, already pulling on her own shift. "With fires burning all night and servants to warm their clothes. The linen was precious, made from flax grown in their own field, harvested by Joan's mother years ago, spun by Joan herself when she was young, before the children, before her fingers grew stiff. It had been mended so many times, little patches and darns creating a map of years, but it still held together, still did its job. Mama? Agnes stirred. Is it morning? Aye, love. But stay warm a bit longer. Let the fire catch properly first. Agnes burrowed deeper. Smart girl. Next came the wool. Thomas's tunic was brown, the color of earth, the color of work. It reached past his knees. Good thick wool from their own sheep. He remembered when Joan had made it, 5 winters ago now, spinning through the long evenings, weaving on the borrowed loom. Still fits, he said, pulling it over his head. Because I made it big, Joan replied. Knew you'd appreciate the extra warmth one day. She was right. The tunic hung loose, creating pockets of air that would warm slowly through the day, become its own insulation. Joan's dress was the same, wool dyed with walnut, a soft brown that hid the dirt. Hidden dirt meant less washing. Less washing meant the fabric lasted longer. She pulled it on, then reached for her belt. The belt did more than hold the dress. It created layers. She could blouse the fabric above it, trap more warm air. Every little trick helped. My turn? William's voice came from the bed. Aye, son. Be brave now. William slipped out, hopping from foot to foot on the cold floor. His undershirt was smaller, newer. Joan had made it from one of Thomas's old ones. Nothing wasted. Ever. Why do my teeth chatter? He asked, pulling on his tunic. Body's way of making heat, Thomas explained. Shivering is work. Work makes warmth. I don't feel warm. You will? Give it time. Little Mary woke next, whimpering at the cold. Come here, little one, Joan said. Mama will help. She dressed Mary quickly, efficiently. Undershift first, then the wool dress, made from Agnes's old one, cut down, remade. It itches, Mary complained. That's how you know it's working, Joan said. Soft clothes don't keep you warm, rough clothes do. It was a lie, sort of. But children needed simple rules. The real secret was layers. Watch close, Thomas told William. This is important. He wrapped strips of cloth around his legs, from ankle to knee, like bandages, but for warmth, not wounds. These go under your hose, he explained. Extra layer, keeps the wind out. William watched, memorizing. Everything his father did mattered. Might save his life one day. The hose came next. Wool again, tied at the waist with cord. They bagged at the knees. Worn thin there, but still serviceable. Next winter, Joan said, looking at them critically. "Those'll need replacing." "They'll last," Thomas said. They had to last. New hose meant shearing, spinning, weaving, dyeing, cutting, sewing, months of work. Feet were the hardest to keep warm. Thomas sat on the bench, pulling on his boots, leather worn soft, shaped to his feet from years of wear. But first, the straw, fresh straw every morning, stuffed into the boots, it would crush down through the day, get damp, but for the morning at least, it insulated. "Pack it tight," he told William, who was doing the same. "But not too tight. Need room for your foot." William nodded. This too was important. Frostbite took toes. Everyone knew someone who'd lost toes. Mary didn't have proper boots, just cloth shoes. Joan wrapped her little feet in extra rags first, then the shoes, then more rags over. "Like a present," Mary said, looking at her bundled feet. "Best present there is," Joan agreed. "Warm toes." The final layers were for outside. The cloaks hung by the door, heavy wool, oil treated to shed rain. They smelled of sheep and smoke and years of use. Thomas's cloak had been his father's, dark gray, almost black in places, patched where thorns had caught it, where sparks had burned holes. It wrapped around him like armor, heavy on his shoulders, but warm, so warm. Joan's cloak was newer, her bride gift from her parents, still good brown wool, the hood deep enough to hide her face. "Pull it close," she always told the girls. "Your head loses heat faster than anywhere. Keep your head warm. You keep all of you warm." Agnes had a cloak too, made from an old blanket. Not pretty, but it worked. William had his father's old one, cut down, still too big, but he'd grow into it. Mary, little Mary, had the luxury. A rabbit fur collar on her small cloak. Thomas had trapped the rabbits himself. Joan had sewn the fur with tiny stitches. "Because she's the smallest," Joan explained when William complained. "She needs it most." Hands were precious. Hands did the work. Thomas had leather mittens, no fingers. Fingers were for rich folk, but mittens kept the warmth in. They hung from a cord around his neck, easy to pull on, easy to remove when needed. Joan's were knitted, wool of course. Everything was wool. She'd made them herself, and Agnes's, and was working on William's. "Keep them dry," she always warned. "Wet mittens are worse than no mittens." At night the mittens dried by the fire, stiff and crusty by morning, but warm once your hands heated them. But all these clothes, all these layers, they were for daytime. Night was different. "Tell me again," Mary asked, as she did every night. "Why do we sleep in our clothes?" "Because bed isn't warm enough without them," Joan explained patiently. It was true. Their one good blanket, wool again, wasn't enough. Not in deep winter, so they slept dressed. Everything but boots and cloaks. "In summer we complain," Agnes said. "Too hot to sleep clothed." "And in winter we're grateful," Joan finished. The bed itself was strategic. Thomas and Joan on the outside, children in the middle, baby Tom nestled between them all, everyone touching, everyone sharing heat, like foxes in a den, William said once. Exactly like that, Thomas agreed. Animals know. Stay close. Stay warm. Even their sleeping positions mattered. Curl up, Joan instructed Mary. Like a little mouse. Curled bodies lost less heat, exposed less surface to the cold. And pull your hood up, she added. Yes, they slept in hoods too, wool caps for those who had them, hoods for others. My nose is cold, Mary complained. Duck it under the blanket for a bit, Joan suggested. But come up for air. Don't want you suffocating. It was a balance. Warmth versus breathing. They'd all learned to sleep with just their noses exposed. Little pink noses in a sea of wool. Some nights were worse than others. Remember last winter? Agnes whispered. When the water froze in the bucket? Inside the house, William added. Ice inside. Those nights they'd all worn everything, every single piece of clothing they owned, layered like onions. Couldn't barely move, Thomas remembered. Like wearing armor. But we survived, Joan said firmly. That's what matters. The children had questions, always question. Why can't we have fur? William asked. Like the lords. Because fur comes from trapping, Thomas explained. And trapping takes time. And time away from farming means no food. But we trapped those rabbits. 3 rabbits, Thomas corrected. For Mary's collar. Took me 4 days. 4 days I wasn't cutting wood or tending animals. Everything was choices. Everything was balance. What about silk? Agnes wondered. I heard the lady at the manor has silk. Joan laughed, not unkindly. Silk comes from lands far away, costs more than our whole cottage. Silk is for different lives than ours. Is it warm? No, Joan said. That's the jest. Silk is cold, beautiful but cold. Give me good wool any day. The care of clothes was constant work. Every evening, Joan checked, looked for tears, for holes, for weakness. Stitch in time, she muttered, needle flying. Saves 9. Small holes became big holes. Big holes meant cold. Cold meant sickness. Sickness meant better not to think. Agnes, she called. Watch how I do this. See? Tiny stitches. Close together. Strong. Agnes watched. Learning. Always learning. One day she'd need to keep her own family warm. Washing was rare in winter. Too hard to dry things. Too risky to be without clothes while they dried. Spring cleaning, Joan promised when Mary complained about the smell. Come spring, we'll wash everything, beat it clean, hang it in the sunshine. But for now, dirty was warm, clean was dangerous. Sometimes clothes were shared. When Thomas went to the forest, He took William's mittens too, doubled up. When Agnes helped with the chickens, she wore her mother's extra shawl. What's mine is yours, was the rule. Had to be, even between families. When old Martha's grandson came visiting, his cloak torn beyond repair, Thomas lent him William's. But I need it, William protested quietly. You have other layers, Thomas said. He has none, and he has miles to walk. The cloak came back a week later, with a ham, payment and thanks. See, Thomas told William, kindness returns. At night, getting undressed was as bad as getting dressed. They delayed, sitting by the fire, putting it off. Bed, Joan finally said. Fire's dying. No point staying up. One by one they removed their outer layers, cloaks on the pegs, mittens hung to dry, boots by the hearth, but that was all. Into bed fully dressed, tunics and shifts and hose. Pile on, Thomas said, pulling the blanket up. They pressed together, a tangle of limbs and wool. I'm cold, Mary whimpered. Think warm thoughts, Joan suggested. Think of summer, of sunshine. I can't remember summer. Then think of spring. It's coming. Always comes. Slowly, slowly. Their body heat built, trapped by the clothes, by the blanket, by each other. Better? Joan asked. Mary murmured, already drifting. One by one they slept, warm at last, or warm enough. Tomorrow they'd wake, dress in the cold again, face another day wrapped in wool. But for now, they were safe, covered and cared for. Their clothes might be patched, darned, worn, but they worked. Each thread a tiny warrior against winter, each layer a shield, and together, all together, they would make it through, thread by thread, layer by layer, night by night, until spring came again, as it always did, as it always would. Wrapped in wool and love and hope, they slept. The darkness owned most of winter. Thomas woke, as he always did, hours before dawn. No rooster announced the morning. Even the birds knew better than to sing in such cold. He lay still, listening. Was that wind? Or just the timbers creaking? Was that snow against the thatch? Or just his imagination? Joan stirred beside him. Time? Time, he confirmed, though neither could see the sky. In summer you woke with the sun. In winter you woke by instinct, by the rhythm bones deep, by the knowledge that animals needed tending, no matter how dark, no matter how cold. The first challenge was light. Thomas felt his way to the hearth, hands knowing every step, every obstacle. The fire still glowed. Thank God. He added kindling, waited for flame. Now came the decision. Use precious candle or manage in the dark. Candles were for emergencies, made from tallow. Sheep, fat carefully saved, each one hours of work. each one irreplaceable until autumn's slaughter came again. "I'll manage," he muttered, but Joan was already up, already practical. "Here," she said, a rush light. Their compromise between dark and waste. She took a dried rush from the holder, the inside soaked in fat, and lit it from the fire. It gave barely any light, a flickering yellow glow, but enough to see shapes, enough to avoid stepping on the cat. 10 minutes, she warned. Maybe 12. That's all a rush light lasted. Then darkness again, or light another. They had maybe 100 left, to last till spring. Everyone counted. Thomas dressed by rushlight, quick, efficient, no time to waste the flame. Outside the animals were waiting. He took the lantern, their one good lantern, horn sides instead of glass. Glass was for churches, for lords. The horn glowed dim yellow when the candle inside was lit, just enough to see your feet, just enough to not trip over frozen mud. "Back soon," he told Joan. She nodded, already starting her own day, her own battles. The cold outside was brutal. It hit his face like a physical thing, made his eyes water instantly, froze the tears on his cheeks. The path to the barn was memory more than sight. 20 steps straight. Turn left at the oak tree. 15 steps more. The animals heard him coming. Rosie lowed softly. Hungry. Always hungry in winter. "Morning, girl," Thomas said, his voice strange in the frozen air. The barn was warmer, animal heat trapped by walls, but still cold enough to see breath, his and theirs. He forked hay down from the loft. Careful ration. Had to last till spring. The cow ate steadily, peacefully. The sheep pushed against each other, competing for the best bits. He spread it out, made sure each got some. But first, the ice. The water trough was frozen solid. Every morning the same. Thomas took the hammer, specially kept for this, raised it high, brought it down hard. Crack! The ice shattered. Water below. Precious liquid water. He cleared the chunks away. The animals pushed forward, drinking deep, knowing it would freeze again soon. "Drink up," he encouraged. "All you can." Back inside, Joan had her own struggles. Cooking in near darkness was art, memory, faith. She felt for the pot, added water by sound. Listened for the glug-glug that said, "Enough?" The barley was in the jar, always the same jar, always the same place. She measured by handful, 3 for Thomas, 2 for her, 1 each for the children. "Mama, I can't see," Mary complained. "Awake now. Then use your other senses," Joan advised. "What do you smell?" "Smoke and porridge?" "Yes. What do you hear?" "Bubbling. And Papa outside." "See? You don't always need eyes." It was a lesson. Everything was a lesson. How to survive when the world gave you so little. As gray light finally crept through the cracks, the real work began. Indoor work in winter. Everything that could be done by the fire. Thomas brought in his tools, the ones that needed attention. The scythe blade was nicked, needed sharpening. He sat by the hearth, whetstone in hand. The rhythmic scraping filled the cottage. Why now? William asked, watching. Because come spring, there's no time. When the grass grows, we cut. No time for sharpening then. William nodded, understanding. Winter was preparation. Spring was action. Agnes helped her mother with the endless spinning. The wheel turned, turned. Wool becoming thread, thread becoming possibility. My fingers are stiff, Agnes said. Keep them moving, Joan advised. Movement is warmth, stillness is cold. The spindle danced, the thread grew. By spring they'd have enough for new cloth. Maybe, if nothing broke, if the wool held out. But not everything could be done inside. Wood, Thomas announced. Need wood. It was the constant need. The hungry hearth never satisfied. William jumped up. I'll help. Good lad. They wrapped up every layer. Then out into the white world. The woodpile was getting low, always getting low. We cut more tomorrow, Thomas decided. Today, we split. The axe was heavy in the cold, metal so cold it burned to touch. Thomas wrapped the handle in rags. Thunk! The frozen wood split differently than summer wood. Harder, more brittle, sometimes exploded in strange directions. Stand back, he warned William. Thunk. Another log became pieces, became future warmth. William gathered the splits, stacked them carefully, like building a wall, each piece fitting just so. Why so careful? He asked once. Loose stack falls. Fallen wood gets snow-covered. Snow-covered wood won't burn. Won't burn means cold house. Cold house means... William finished stacking very carefully. Inside, the light was failing already. Is it noon? Agnes asked. Past noon, Joan confirmed. Winter days were cruel short. Light came late, left early. Most of life happened in darkness. I hate it, Mary said suddenly, surprising everyone. Hate what, love? The dark, always dark. Dark when we wake, dark when we eat, dark when we sleep. Joan pulled her close. I know, but listen. Every day now, the light stays a tiny bit longer. Tiny bit. You can't see it yet, but it's happening. Promise? Promise. God's own promise. Light always returns. The afternoon work was smaller, closer, mending, always mending. Thomas worked on the harness, leather stiff with cold, needed oil, needed care. Come plowing time, it had to be ready. His fingers were clumsy, the awl hard to grip, but stitch by stitch, repair by repair. Why not wait for warmer days? William asked. Because warmer days bring their own work, Thomas explained. Everything has its season. Mending season is winter. Joan patched clothes, the needle tiny in the dim light. She squinted, held the fabric close to the window. Agnes, thread this for me. Young eyes. Agnes threaded the needle, proud to be needed. Even Mary had work, picking stones from dried beans, cleaning them for tomorrow's meal. 1, 2, 3 stones, she counted. Good girl. Save the beans, toss the stones. Everyone worked. Everyone contributed. Even the littlest hands. The worst was when outside work couldn't wait. Chickens, Joan remembered suddenly. They've had no grain. Thomas was already deep in harness repair. I'll go, Agnes offered. She bundled up, took the grain basket, stepped into the dying light. The chickens were huddled in their shelter, miserable bundles of feathers. Here, here, Agnes called, scattering grain. They pecked half-heartedly. Cold affected everyone. Even chickens lost spirit in deep winter. She checked for eggs. Sometimes, rarely, one brave hen might lay. Nothing today. Tomorrow maybe, she told them. When it's warmer, it wouldn't be warmer, but hope helped. Even chickens needed hope. Back inside. Darkness falling fast now. Rush light? Joan asked Thomas. He calculated. How many left? How many days till spring? 1, he decided. Just 1. She lit it carefully. The small flame brave in the growing dark. Now came the evening scramble. Everything that needed light. Do it now. Quick. Joan checked the pot. Added salt. Precious salt. Just a pinch. Thomas finished the last harness stitch. Agnes set the mending aside. Too dark for needlework now. William brought in the last wood for the night. All racing the dying light. All trying to squeeze more from the day. The rush light flickered. Died. Darkness. Complete except for the hearth glow. Story time, Mary asked hopefully. Aye, Thomas agreed. Story time. They gathered close to the fire, the only light now, faces orange in the glow. Tell about when you were young, Papa, William requested. Thomas settled back, remembering. When I was your age, my father told me something. Winter days are short, he said, but winter memories are long. What does that mean? It means we remember the dark times more. They shape us, make us who we are. He told of winters past, when snow reached the roof, when wolves still came close to villages, when his own grandfather remembered the great freeze. Rivers turned solid, could walk to France if you wanted. Did anyone? Why would they? France was frozen too. They laughed, quiet laughter, saving energy even in joy. Supper in darkness was its own skill. Joan ladled by feel, years of practice guiding her hand. They ate by the fire, bowls warm in their hands, the only warmth besides the flames. "What is it?" Mary asked, though she knew. "Pottage," Joan said. "Same as yesterday, same as tomorrow." "I like it," Mary decided. What choice did she have? There was nothing else. They ate slowly, making it last. Hot food was precious. Once it cooled, that was it till morning. "Save the bread," Joan warned. "For morning." Hard bread, getting harder, but it would soften in hot water. Make breakfast. Everything planned, everything rationed, nothing wasted. After supper, the last tasks. Thomas banked the fire, just right. Not too much ash, not too little. Joan settled the baby, changed his wrappings by touch, wrapped him warm again. William brought in the last water, ice already forming on top. Agnes helped Mary ready for bed. "Prayers," Joan reminded. They knelt by the dying fire, hands clasped, eyes closed. Not that it mattered in the dark. For warmth, Thomas began. "We thank thee," they responded. "For food, we thank thee. For another day survived, we thank thee." Simple prayers, but heartfelt. Every word true. Bed came early in winter. No point staying up. No light to see by. No warmth but under covers. They climbed in together. Still dressed. Always dressed. "Tell me about summer," Mary whispered. "Green grass," Joan began. "So green it hurts your eyes. And warm. So warm you complain." "I won't complain. You will. Come July you'll say, 'Too hot,' and I'll remind you of tonight. What else? Long days, light till almost bedtime, work in the fields, yes, but warm work, happy work, and berries," Agnes added, "wild strawberries, and swimming in the pond," William contributed, "and dry feet," Thomas finished. Completely dry feet. They built summer with words, painted warmth with memories. Tomorrow would be the same. Dark morning, short day, long night. But they'd survived another. That was all that mattered, all that could matter. One day at a time, one night at a time. Winter was long, but not forever. Nothing was forever. Not even darkness. "Sleep now," Joan whispered. "Dawn comes soon. Too soon. Always too soon in winter." But they'd meet it, as they always did. Together, in darkness, but together. And that made all the difference. That made it bearable. The cough started small. Just a tickle in William's throat. Nothing really, but Joan heard it. Mothers always heard it. "Come here," she said quietly. She felt his forehead, not with her palm, but with the back of her hand, more sensitive, more true. "No fever," she announced. "Yet?" That yet hung in the air, heavy as smoke. Winter coughs could turn, everyone knew that. Start small, grow large, take a child in days. Mama? William saw the worry in her eyes. Just a tickle, she said, brightening. We'll fix it. Don't worry. But she was already moving, already planning. The herb shelf was her pharmacy. Bundles hung from every beam, dried since summer, waiting for moments like this. She reached for the thyme first. See this? She showed Agnes. Your grandmother taught me, and hers taught her. Back and back. She crumbled the dried leaves, releasing their scent. Even dried, even in winter, they held power. Thyme for the chest, she recited. Sage for the throat, feverfew for the head. Agnes nodded, memorizing. One day she'd need this. One day she'd have her own children to heal. Joan put water to heat. Not too hot. Hot destroyed the goodness. Warm was better. She added the thyme. Let it steep. The cottage filled with the scent. Clean. Medicinal. Hopeful. Breathe the steam, she told William. Deep as you can. He leaned over the pot, breathing, the warm vapor soothing his throat. Better? A little. A little was good. A little was a start. But herbs were only part of it. Thomas came in from the barn, saw what was happening. His face tightened. The cough? Just started, Joan said. We're early. That's good. He nodded, went to his own corner, his own knowledge. From a wrapped cloth, he produced it. A whole garlic bulb, saved for just such times. This stinking rose, he said, making William smile despite the worry. He peeled 3 cloves, crushed them with his knife. The smell filled the cottage, sharp, strong, alive. Eat, he told William. Raw? Raw is strongest. Go on. William chewed, face scrunching, eyes watering. Burns. That's the healing, Thomas said. Feel it going down, fighting the bad air in your chest? It was what his father had told him, what his grandfather had sworn by. Garlic for the chest, onion for the throat. If you had them, if you could spare them. Old Martha appeared at the door. News traveled fast in winter. The boy coughs? Just started, Joan said. Martha nodded, came in without asking. This was beyond politeness. This was survival. From her pouch she produced things. Whorehound, she said, showing them. For the cough itself stops the tickle. Then another bundle. Elderflower, from last summer, for when fever comes. If fever comes, Joan corrected. When, Martha said firmly. Best to be ready. She showed them how to prepare it, how much to use, how often. Every grandmother knows this, she said. But I'll tell you anyway. Never hurts to hear again. As evening came, more neighbors arrived. Word had spread. William the Cooper's son brought honey. Just a spoonful, he said. From my mother, for the boy's throat. Honey was gold, literally worth its weight in coin. But for a sick child, neighbors shared. Heat it, he advised. Mix with a little wine if you have it. Coats the throat. They had no wine, but ale would do. Weak ale, heated with honey. William sipped it, the warmth spreading down. Nice, he admitted. My mother says. The Cooper's son continued. Sip slow, let it work. Then came the beliefs, the older wisdom. Sarah the weaver arrived with her remedy. Red thread, she announced. Holding it up, Joan knew this one. Didn't believe it, but didn't disbelieve either. Sarah tied the red thread around William's neck. 7 knots, she counted, 1 for each day of the week. As the thread wears, the cough goes. Thank you, Joan said, meaning it. What harm could it do? And sometimes, believing helped. William touched the thread, already feeling special, cared for. As night deepened, the remedies grew stranger. Peter the plowman brought his cure. Spider web, he said proudly, collected from the barn, clean ones, no flies. Joan's stomach turned, but she listened. Wrap them on the chest, he explained, under the shirt. They draw out the bad air. This was too far, even for her. We'll remember that, she said carefully, if nothing else works. Peter nodded, understanding. His remedy was for desperate times. They weren't there yet, but some superstitions she did follow. She moved William's sleeping spot. Not by the door, she explained. Cold air creeps under, finds the weak. She hung iron by his bed, an old horseshoe. Keeps evil away, she said when Thomas raised an eyebrow. The priest says there's no evil but the devil, Thomas reminded her. Then it keeps the devil away, Joan replied. Practical as always. She opened the window. Just a crack, despite the cold. Bad air needs to escape, she explained. Trap it inside. It grows stronger. Thomas grumbled, but didn't close it. Joan's mother had done the same, and her children survived. Mostly. Agnes watched everything, learning. Why so many cures? She asked. Which one works? All of them, Joan said. Or none. We don't know, so we try all. It was the truth. No one knew what really worked. Was it the herbs, the prayers, the red thread, the garlic? Maybe all. Maybe none. Maybe just time and God's will. But doing something, That mattered. Doing something meant hope. The night rituals began. Joan made a chest rub. Goose grease base. Saved from autumn. Mixed with crushed mustard seed. This will warm, she warned William. She rubbed it on his chest. The smell made everyone's eyes water. Burns, William complained. Good, Joan said. Means it's working. She wrapped his chest in wool, sealing in the treatment. Then came the prayers, different from usual. Saint Blaise protect him, Joan whispered. Saint Blaise for throat ailments. Everyone knew that. Saint Michael defend him for strength. Holy Mother watch over him, because mothers understood. Thomas added his own, quieter, but fervent. Even little Mary prayed, in her own way. Please make William better. He's the only brother I have. They arranged the sleeping different tonight. William closest to the fire, but not too close. Heat could make fever worse. Joan would sleep beside him, listening to his breathing. If it gets wet, she told Thomas, wake me. Wet breathing, drowning breathing. That was the fear. I'll wake too, Agnes said, wanting to help. They all would wake. Every cough would rouse them. No one would sleep well tonight. But first, more remedies. Old Martha had one more thing. Almost forgot, she said. Though she never forgot anything. From her pouch came a small bag. Sleep under his pillow, she instructed. Don't open it. What's inside? Better not to know, Martha said. Just herbs, special herbs, picked at the right moon. Joan took it, sniffed. Strange smell. Not unpleasant, but different. Under William's pillow it went. Another layer of protection. The fire burned different tonight too. Thomas added herbs directly to the flames. Juniper, he said, cleans the air. The smoke changed, became sweeter, almost church-like. We did this, he said, during the great sickness. When I was small, whole village smelled of juniper for months. Did it work? Thomas shrugged. I'm here. So is your mother. Many aren't. Good enough evidence. As they settled for sleep, William coughed again. Everyone tensed, but it was lighter, less harsh. See? Joan said. Better already. Maybe it was. Maybe she just hoped. William himself felt strange. Warm from the mustard rub. Throat soothed by honey. Nose full of herbs and smoke. I feel... He started. Yes? Loved, he finished. Surprising himself. Joan smiled. The first real smile all evening. That's the best medicine, she said. Love and care. Through the night she woke, many times, listening, always listening. William's breathing stayed clear, mostly Once she made him sip more honey ale. Once she adjusted his covers. Once she just watched, counted his breaths. The red thread glowed in the firelight. The herbs under his pillow released their scent. The horseshoe hung steady. By morning, the crisis had passed. William woke clear-eyed, hungry. "My throat," he said. "It's better." Joan felt his head again. Cool. Normal. The cough? He tried. A small cough came, but small. Nothing like yesterday. "Thank God," Thomas breathed. "Thank everything," Joan corrected. "God and herbs and neighbors and love." Old Martha came early, checking. "Good," she pronounced. "But keep the treatments going. 3 days. Winter coughs are tricky." She left more herbs. Different ones. "For strength now," she explained. "Building him back up." The cooper's wife sent more honey. The weaver checked the red thread. Still strong. Peter asked if they needed spider webs. They politely declined. William spent the day by the fire, still coughing occasionally, but light coughs. "Can I help with something?" he asked, bored already. "You can sort the dried beans," Joan said. "Sitting work." He sorted, slowly. The simple task soothing. Agnes sat with him, learning more remedies from their mother. "For next time," Joan said. "There's always a next time." That evening, the relief was palpable. They'd won. This time, the cough hadn't turned, hadn't gone deep, hadn't taken their boy. "What worked?" Agnes asked again. "Everything," Joan said. "Or maybe just time. We'll never know." "The garlic," Thomas said firmly. "The time tea," Joan countered. "The red thread," William himself said, touching it. "My prayers," Mary added. They all smiled. Let everyone believe what helped. Truth was, no one knew. But that was winter. You tried everything. Hoped, prayed. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes. Best not to think about sometimes. That night they slept better. William's breathing clear. The crisis passed. But Joan still woke twice. Checking. Always checking. The herbs stayed under his pillow. The horseshoe on the wall. The red thread around his neck. No point taking chances. Winter was long, and tomorrow, someone else might cough. Someone else might need the remedies. The herbs, the hope. That was winter too. Sharing the knowledge, sharing the fear, sharing the relief when morning came. And your children still breathed, still lived, still laughed by the fire. One more day, one more victory, against the cold, against the dark, against the cough that came in the night. They'd won today. Tomorrow would bring its own battles, but tonight, William slept peaceful. The herbs did their work, or God did his, or love did its. Who could say? Who needed to? He breathed, clear and strong. That was enough. That was everything. The supper bowls were empty, scraped clean, every drop precious. Outside the wind had picked up, howling like a living thing, rattling the shutters, finding every gap. But inside was different. Story night, Thomas announced. The children brightened immediately. Even Agnes, who pretended to be too old. Even baby Tom, who understood only the tone. "Which story, Papa?" Mary asked, settling closer to the fire. "Well now," Thomas made a show of thinking, though he already knew. "What about the one your grandmother told me, when I was small as you?" "The winter stranger," William guessed. "The clever peasant?" Agnes tried. Thomas smiled. "The long winter, and how spring was almost lost forever." "Oh," Mary breathed. "I love that one." They all did. Even Joan, who'd heard it countless times. Even old Martha, who'd wandered over, drawn by the promise of stories. Everyone found their place. William on the floor, knees drawn up. Agnes beside him. Baby Tom in Joan's lap. Mary somehow squeezed between everyone. The fire crackled, sending shadows dancing. Perfect for stories. Thomas cleared his throat. Settled back. His voice changed. Became the story voice. The voice of memory. "Long ago," he began. "Before your grandfather's grandfather, when the world was younger, winters were just like summers." "No snow," Mary interrupted. "No snow, no frost, no ice. The sun shone gentle all year round. Crops grew always. Animals grazed always. People wore light clothes and sang from dawn to dusk." "Sounds nice," William said. "Aye, too nice." That was the problem. Thomas paused. Let them wonder. Good stories needed pauses. See? When life is always easy, people forget. Forget to be grateful. Forget to be kind. Forget to share. Joan nodded. She knew where this was going, but knowing didn't spoil it. There was a man then, a farmer, had everything. Good land, strong sons, barns full of grain, but he wanted more, always more. The children leaned in, even the baby seemed to listen. One day, a stranger came to his door, old woman, bent like a winter tree, rags for clothes. Thomas made his voice creaky. "Please, sir, just a crust of bread, just a sip of water." But the farmer, rich as he was, said, "Away with you. I've nothing to spare. These are mine. Worked for. Earned." "That was mean," Mary whispered. "Aye, very mean." And the old woman, she stood straighter then. Her rags fell away. And underneath, Thomas paused again. The fire popped, making everyone jump. Underneath she shone like starlight, beautiful and terrible, a spirit of the earth itself. "Oh," from the children, "you have forgotten," she said. "Forgotten that all gifts come from the earth, that sharing is what makes us human. So I'll teach you. I'll teach you all." Thomas's voice dropped lower. The children huddled closer. She raised her arms, and the sun, the always shining sun, began to fade. "No," Mary gasped. Yes, clouds came, dark as wool. Cold came, sharp as knives. The first snow began to fall. The farmer begged then, "Please, I'm sorry. Take my grain. Take everything." But the spirit shook her head. "Too late for you, but not for others. Those who share, who care, who remember, they'll survive. The others." Thomas let that hang. The snow fell and fell and fell. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. The farmer, he had food, had fuel, but no one would trade with him. No one would help when his roof collapsed. No one came when he called. "What happened to him?" William asked. "They found him in spring, frozen, surrounded by his treasures, rich, but alone." But the others, the kind ones, they shared their little, huddled together, helped each other. And when spring finally came, they were still there, still together. "Is that why winter comes?" Agnes asked. "To remind us?" Thomas smiled. "What do you think?" She considered. I think winter shows us who we really are. When things are hard, that's when you see true hearts." "Wise girl," Joan murmured. "Tell another," Mary demanded. But Thomas shook his head. "Your mother's turn." Joan passed baby Tom to Agnes, settled herself. Her stories were different, softer, but no less important. "This one," she said, "is about a girl. Young woman, really. About Agnes's age." Agnes perked up. "She lived alone, parents gone to fever, no brothers, no sisters, just her and a cottage, and winter coming. The wind outside seemed to quiet, listening too. She had food enough, if she was careful, wood enough, if she rationed. But something was missing." "What?" Mary asked. She didn't know. That was the problem. Just something. Joan's voice was gentle, rhythmic, like spinning. Each night she'd sit by her fire, warm enough, fed enough, but empty somehow. Then one night, coldest night of winter, she heard something. Joan paused. They all listened. Was that the wind, or something else? Scratching at her door, tiny scratching. "A wolf?" William breathed. She thought so too. Almost didn't open it, but the scratching came again. Weaker. She cracked the door, just a crack. And there, Joan smiled at the memory of the story. A cat, thin as thread, ice in its whiskers, more dead than alive. "Well," the girl said, "can't leave you out there." She brought it in, fed it drops of milk, warmed it by the fire, slowly, slowly. It revived. The cat stayed. Of course it stayed. Where else in winter? And strange things happened. The girl's food seemed to last longer. Her wood burned slower. Her cottage felt warmer. But most strange, she wasn't empty anymore. Had someone to talk to, even if it didn't answer. Someone to care for. Someone who needed her. Magic cat? Agnes guessed. Joan shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe. Caring for something else makes our own burdens lighter. Makes our food taste better. Makes our fire burn brighter. The girl made it through winter, her and the cat. Come spring, it could have left. Caught mice in the barn, lived wild. But it stayed, Mary hoped. It stayed, always stayed, grew fat and glossy, had kittens of its own, filled that cottage with purring. And the girl, she was never empty again, never alone, had learned the secret. Which was, Thomas prompted, though he knew that a heart shared is a heart doubled, that caring for others feeds our own soul. Old Martha had been quiet. Now she stirred. "My turn?" she asked. "Please," the children chorused. Martha's stories were oldest, strangest, from times before memory. "When I was young as you," she began, "my grandmother told me, and hers told her, back when Christ was just a boy himself." The children's eyes widened. "That old?" "There was a winter so cold, ice spirits walked the earth." Her voice was different from Thomas's, from Joan's, ancient like wind in old trees. These spirits, they weren't evil, just cold. Everything they touched turned to frost. Flowers became glass. Rivers became roads. Did they come to villages? One did. Curious maybe. Lonely perhaps. Who knows what spirits feel? It walked through the village at night, touching doors, windows, wells, everything freezing in its wake. People woke to a world of ice, beautiful but deadly. No water to drink, frozen solid. No doors to open, iced shut. The fire seemed to dim as she spoke. They were trapped, would die. When youngest child, a boy like you, William, had an idea. "What?" William leaned forward. "Fire. If ice spirits brought cold, fire might bring warmth. But not just any fire. Every hearth flame in the village, brought together." Martha's eyes reflected the flames. Each family brought a burning brand, met in the square, fed them together into one great fire. Higher than houses it burned, bright as summer sun, and the ice spirit, She paused. Masters of timing, these storytellers came to see, drawn like moth, circled the fire. Closer, closer. Did it die? Mary worried, always tender-hearted. No, it transformed. The heat didn't kill. It changed. Ice became water. Water became mist. Mist became... what? First rain of spring. Gentle rain. Warm rain. Melting all the ice. Freeing the village. And they learned not to fear winter spirits, but to meet them with warmth, community warmth, shared fire. Some say, on coldest nights, you can still see them, frost spirits, watching through windows, but they don't enter anymore. No humans have fire, have each other. The stories wound down. One more? Mary pleaded, but Joan saw the signs. Heavy eyelids, stifled yawns. Tomorrow, she promised. Stories every night till spring. Every night? Every night. Winter gift. When we can't work outside, we work inside. On memories, on stories, on binding ourselves together with words. They began the evening cleanup, but slower tonight, still held by story spell. Agnes banked the fire carefully, thinking of ice spirits. William checked the door, thinking of strangers. Mary held her corn doll close, telling it about the cat. Good stories tonight, Thomas told Joan quietly. Always are, she replied. Stories are how we survive, pass down what matters. Which one do you think they'll remember? All of them, parts of each, mixed together, made their own. That's how it works. As they prepared for bed, the cottage felt different, warmer somehow, not just from fire, from words, from shared breath-making stories. Papa, William asked, are they true, the stories? Thomas considered. True enough, he said finally. True in the ways that matter. But there aren't really ice spirits, aren't there? What's frost on windows but spirits drawing? What's wind but them singing? William thought about this. And the lessons? Agnes added. Those are true? Those are truest of all, Joan said. Share, care, stay together, fight cold with warmth. Those will always be true. Into bed they climbed, but tonight felt less cold somehow. Stories wrapped around them like extra blankets. Tell us one more, Mary whispered. Just small. But Thomas was already beginning. Once, a family just like us, on a night just like this. His voice soft, softer, rhythm of sleep. The wind outside gentled, or seemed to. The fire crackled its own story, and one by one, held by tales, warmed by words, they drifted off. Tomorrow would bring cold again, work again, worry again. But tonight they had stories, had each other, had the ancient comfort of voices in darkness, telling the old truths, the ones that mattered, the ones that lasted longer than winter, deeper than cold, stories, the greatest fire of all. The cottage lay still. Thomas opened his eyes in the darkness, not sure what woke him, just something. Beside him, Joan breathed deep and even. The children tangled together, peaceful. Baby Tom making small sleep sounds. All well. But still, something had woken him. He lay listening. Wind had died to whispers, no longer rattling, just sighing, gentle now. The house creaked, old timbers settling, speaking their night language. He knew each sound. This board, that beam, nothing wrong, nothing different. But fathers know something always needs checking. He slipped from bed, quiet as he could, bare feet finding the cold floor, each step careful, measured. Joan stirred. "Shh," he whispered, "just checking the fire." She settled back, used to his night walks. Good wives understand. Husbands need to prowl sometimes. Make sure, always make sure. The hearth glowed low, red embers breathing under ash. Still alive. Good. He knelt beside it, added a small log, just one, enough to last till dawn. The log caught slowly, flames licking tentative, then stronger. He watched, mesmerized as always. Fire in the night, different than day fire, quieter, more thoughtful. He held his hands out. Let the warmth touch him. "Thank you," he whispered. Old habit. Thanking the fire. From his grandfather, who thanked everything. Wells for water, cows for milk, fire for warmth. Never hurts to be grateful, the old man had said. World gives more to grateful hearts. Thomas stood slowly, joints stiff from cold. Checked the door, still barred. Strong oak beam across. Through the cracks he could see snow falling, silent snow, the kind that comes at night. No wind to drive it, just falling, falling, covering the world in quiet. By morning it would be deep, more work, paths to clear, roofs to check, but also beauty, clean white beauty. He watched a moment more, the snow hypnotic, each flake visible in the dim light from the fire. The animals, he should check, not outside, too cold, too dark, but Rosie in her lean-to. He could hear her through the wall. He pressed his ear against the timber. There, breathing, slow cow breathing, the occasional shift of weight, content sounds, warm enough sounds. Good girl, he whispered to the wall. Sleep well. The chickens in their corner, quiet lumps of feathers. One opened an eye as he passed, decided he wasn't worth waking for, closed it again. All peaceful, all safe. He moved to the window, the one facing east. Hours yet till dawn, but he looked anyway. Nothing but black and falling white. World reduced to simplest elements. Sometimes on clear nights, he could see stars through the gaps, navigate by them, tell time, but not tonight. Tonight the sky was low, close, full of snow. Back to the hearth, he sat on the low stool, the one his father carved, worn smooth by generations of sitting. This was his favorite time. House asleep, world quiet, just him and the fire and the night. Time to think, or not think, just be. The cat appeared, from wherever cats go in darkness, materialized beside him. "Hello, you," Thomas murmured. The cat said nothing. Cats never do, but pressed against his leg, purring deep. They sat together, man and cat, watching flames. The cat understood night watches, kept its own, hunting mice in darkness, protecting the grain. "Catch anything tonight?" The cat yawned, showing impressive teeth. "Tomorrow then." His family slept on. He could see them in the fire glow, bumps under blankets. William, growing so fast, already his feet stuck out. Need longer bed soon. Agnes, becoming a woman. Childhood leaving her face even in sleep. Little Mary, still baby round, but not for much longer. And Tom, newest addition, still mystery. Who would he become? Time moved different at night. Faster, slower, both somehow. Joan turned in her sleep, reaching for him, finding empty space. He should return, but not yet. These moments were precious too. Alone but not lonely, watching but not worried, just being guardian, silent protector. The fire shifted, log collapsing into embers, shower of sparks up the chimney hole. He watched them rise, little bits of light ascending into darkness. Where did they go? Did they become stars? Did they carry prayers? His grandmother believed that. Every spark a wish rising. He made one now. Wordless, just feeling. Keep them safe. Keep them warm. Keep them outside. An owl called, distant, probably in the big oak, the one that stood before his grandfather's time. Another call answered, further away. Night hunters, like him in a way, awake while others slept, watching, providing. The owl called again, closer now, hunting the yard maybe. Mice came for spilled grain, owls came for mice. Circle of things, everything connected. His feet were cold. Should have put on shoes, but that would have woken everyone. He tucked them under him. Warmer. The cat climbed into his lap, settled into a ball. Making yourself comfortable? Purr was the answer. Weight of cat. Warmth of cat. Not unwelcome. Time to check the children. He stood carefully, cat protesting, returning to the warm spot he left. Soft steps to the bed. William first, breathing clear. Good. The cough truly gone. Agnes next. Brow smooth. No bad dreams tonight. Mary. Thumb in mouth. Joan would scold, but Thomas let it be. She was still small. Baby Tom. So still Thomas had to lean close. Feel the tiny breath on his cheek. Yes, all well. Back to the fire, but standing now, restless. These night watches, sometimes they brought thoughts, heavy thoughts. Would the food last? Would the wood hold out? What if real sickness came? He pushed them away. Nothing to be done now. In darkness, worry helped nothing. Better to count blessings. Fire still burning. Family breathing. Roof holding. The dog outside barked once. Thomas tensed. Listened. But no more barks. Just the one. Probably fox. They came close in winter, bold with hunger, or maybe just dog dreams, chasing rabbits in sleep. He relaxed again. The night deepened. He could feel it. Even without seeing sky, the weight of midnight passing, darkest time, but also turning point. From here, moving toward morning, however slow, like winter itself. Solstice past, days getting longer, too gradual to notice, but happening, always happening. He should sleep. Dawn came early. Work waited, always work, but still he lingered. These moments, alone with the night, they fed something in him, something that daily work couldn't touch. Space to think, to feel, to just exist. The fire was dying again. He considered, add another log, or let it settle. Let it settle. Morning was closer than he thought. He banked it carefully. Ash over embers. Just right. Till morning, he told it. One more check. Door still barred. Animal still quiet. Snow still falling. Family still safe. His job done. For now. He returned to bed. Slow, careful movements. Lifting blanket. Sliding in. The warmth hit him. Accumulated warmth of sleeping bodies. Joan murmured. Made space for him. All well, she whispered. All well. She pressed against him, sharing heat. His feet were ice. She didn't complain, just wrapped her warm ones around them. Good wife, best wife. But sleep didn't come immediately. He lay listening, different sounds from in bed. Joan's breathing, the children's small sighs, house sounds muffled by blankets, snow sounds through the walls, his own heartbeat, slowing, steadying. The cat jumped up, settled in the small space between him and William. More warmth, more life, all together, all safe. Tomorrow would come, with its work, its worries, its cold, but for now. Now there was darkness and warmth and quiet, his family around him, his fire banked and waiting, his animals sheltered, his door barred. What more could a man want? What more was there? Sleep came slowly, like snow falling, gentle, covering everything. His last thought, the same as every night. Thank you to God, to fire, to walls that held, to another day survived, another night peaceful. Thank you. And in the darkness, the cottage slept. The snow fell, the embers breathed, and all was well. All was quiet, all was as it should be. In the deepest part of winter, in the safest part of night, peace. And so the night continues. In that small cottage, 600 years ago, the family sleeps. Thomas and Joan, William and Agnes, little Mary and baby Tom, all together, all safe, all warm enough. The fire breathes its last embers. The snow falls silent. The winter holds them in its cold embrace. But they hold each other closer. Now, very gently, let their story fade, like smoke rising through the roof hole, like footprints filling with snow. Let it fade, but not disappear. Let it settle into your bones. This knowing, this remembering. Feel yourself returning to your own bed, your own time, your pillow beneath your head, not straw, but soft. Your blanket around you, not rough wool, but gentle. The warmth in your room, not from struggling fire, but steady, sure. Breathe and notice. No smoke stinging your eyes, no frost creeping through cracks, no fear that the fire might die, no worry that the wood might run out. Just warmth, reliable warmth. Your breath doesn't mist in the air. Your water doesn't freeze in the night. Your walls keep out all the wind, all the cold. Such simple things, such miracles. Think of Thomas, making his night rounds, checking, always checking. You don't need to check. Your doors lock with a turn. Your heat runs without tending. Think of Joan, waking to tend the fire every morning. No matter how cold, you wake to warmth already there, waiting, patient. Think of the children, dressed in all they own, huddled together for heat, while you rest in comfort they couldn't imagine. Not better people, not worse, just people, separated by time, connected by the need for warmth, for safety, for rest. They survived through the longest winters, the darkest nights, with so much less, but with each other. And because they survived, you are here. Their children's children's children, countless generations, all leading to this moment. You, warm in your bed. So rest now. Rest with gratitude, not guilt, just quiet recognition of how far we've come, how much we have, how little we need to fear the cold. Let your breathing deepen, like theirs did. Finally warm, finally safe. Let your body relax. No need to curl tight against cold. You can stretch. You can sprawl. Let your mind quiet. No need to worry about tomorrow's wood, tomorrow's food. Just rest. The story is ending, but you don't need to hold it. It's already part of you. This knowing how precious warmth is, how beautiful simple shelter, how strong the human spirit. Close your eyes if they aren't already. One more deep breath. In and out. You are safe. You are warm. You are held by walls that will not fail, by warmth that will not die. Sleep now, as they slept, as thousands before you have slept, but easier, softer, deeper, blessed by the gift of being born now, here, where winter is outside, not in, where cold is a choice, not a threat. Sleep and dream perhaps of snow falling on thatch, of fires crackling low, of families pressed close, of stories told in darkness. But wake, when you wake, oh, to warmth, to light, to comfort they could only dream of. Good night. Sleep well, stay warm, always safe.